February 24th, 2005. Just 2 weeks after his celebrated release, John Paul II was rushed back to the hospital.
Pope John Paul II on a respirator after a serious medical setback.
Honestly, I think a lot of people were surprised that the Pope had gone to the hospital the second time. The first question was, did he go home the first time too soon? Is this time worse? And so, obviously, we all start drawing the worst-case scenarios.
This time, it was more serious. The Pope needed a tracheotomy to breathe.
The procedure was absolutely necessary to save the Holy Father's life. All other concerns were secondary to performing the tracheotomy.
Dr. Rodolfo Proietti warned the Pope this procedure could cost him his voice. Potentially disastrous for a man whose words were so vital. Cardinal Camillo Ruini was one of the Pope's closest aides.
He agreed, because he knew that without this he couldn't live, couldn't go on. And he thought, maybe I can learn to speak.
The 30-minute operation was kept secret until it was over. The condition of the Pope's voice was a mystery. But his written words upon awakening were telling. To Mary, he wrote, I once again entrust myself. Totus tuus, I'm totally yours. John Paul's love for Mary dated back to his childhood in Poland. Karol Wojtyła was born in the small town of Wadowice. His family apartment overlooked the Church of Our Lady, where he served as an altar boy. Before she died, his mother Emilia encouraged her 8-year-old son to become a priest. Soon after her death, Wojtyła's father took him on a journey to Calvaria, a series of shrines outside his hometown. It was here that his devotion to the Virgin Mary first began. Decades later, Pope John Paul II would make another pilgrimage, this time to Portugal, to thank Mary, Our Lady of Fatima, for saving his life.
He believes that in 1981, when the assassination attempt was made on his life in St. Peter's Square, that Mary diverted the bullet, literally touched the path of the bullet so that it didn't hit any major organs.
That bullet is now in Fatima, welded into the crown of the Virgin Mary. As John Paul grew older and weaker, his devotion to Mary grew even stronger. In his final year, he visited Lourdes in France, a place of pilgrimage for the sick and suffering. His love of Mary and his feeble condition on full display.
This struggling, bent, broken, frail figure appeared before them and said, "Today I am a sick man among the sick." You cannot imagine the resonance that had in that crowd. Suddenly their suffering, had meaning, had been ennobled by the fact they shared it with this transparently holy man.
The health of the Holy Father, John Paul II, continues to improve and show progress.
March 3rd, 2005. Though the Pope's health remained in question, he remained in public, blessing children outside his hospital window, reading at a hospital mass, even appearing at St. Peter's Square via widescreen TV.
The Vatican wanted to just project the picture that everything was going to be all right, that the Pope was going to recover, that this was just another scare, and that you, the journalists, are making a too big deal out of this.
2 weeks later, in mid-March, the Pope once again journeyed home from the hospital.
It was a big television show. I don't think even Hollywood could have organized this. Live cameras all along the route, helicopter cameras. There was a camera inside the car driving the Pope in the crowd. I've never seen that.
But all the careful camera work could not disguise a visibly pale and weakened Pope. Within the Vatican, questions about his ability to lead. What if he couldn't continue his duties? What if he fell into a coma?
We don't know what to do if the Pope becomes incapacitated. So we hope that the Pope writes a document, a secret document, that can then be released that says, okay, this is how you deal with it.
Rumors swirled of a letter written by the Pope dictating a plan of succession. Not so, says Archbishop Dziwisz, the Pope's personal secretary.
No, he never talked to me about it. But I do know who he did talk to Jesus. He did discuss it with some of his closest colleagues, but that was some time ago. There is this beautiful phrase we use that sums it up. You don't come down from the cross.
I think that resignation was just completely inconsistent with the psychology of the man. This is someone who was profoundly convinced that on May 13th, 1981, the Virgin Mary changed the flight path of a bullet to preserve him in office, and that his pontificate was part of a broader cosmic story about the forces of good and evil at work in the world. I mean, if that's your conviction, I don't think you ever believe. It's up to you to decide when to quit.
And the Pope made it very clear. Any talk of quitting would not shake his will. He would wait for God to call.